not about theory or theology. It's about encountering a living God you can feel, know, and hear. These people aren't falling in love with religion. They're falling in love with Jesus. That is a quote from Jason Ma, who created CampusTransformation.com, which is a website where you go to pray for your campus. Now, we're going to do a visualization. Okay, imagine we come down from the ASU Bridge, and we're walking down Palm Walk, and we go to Tyler Mall, and if we looked over here, we would see the PSA buildings, the physical sciences. If we looked over here, we would see engineering centers. If we looked over here, we would see life sciences. And here we have the Whoa, the Piper House, the Piper Writer's House. And, yeah, okay. I'll let you guys cool down. Okay, okay. Can anybody tell me what you would see in front of that house? Prayer house. This thing? Yeah. Whoa. Yes. Yeah, you would see this thing in front of the Piper House. This is the prayer tent. It's run by Love ASU, and I know a little bit about it because I've been in there a few times, and you probably, how many of you have seen this before? Like most of you. So you probably walked by it. All of you have probably walked by it, and you probably wondered, hey, it's what are they doing? Why are they doing that? It's what is the purpose of this? Where did this come from? Why pray at all? Why even believe in God? There's a lot of questions you could ask, but I'm just going to focus on 2 questions today, and those are why do they do this? Why do they pray? And where did this idea of praying for 24 hours come from? And to get an accurate understanding of the answers to those questions, I went on statepress.com, which is Arizona's newspaper's website, and I also went on Love ASU, the company, well, they're not corporation, they're just a group that runs it, and I went on their website. And without further ado, let us get into the fact that, find out why they pray. Okay, so on their website, loveasu.com, I was able to find 2 reasons for why they do this. First reason was unity, and the second reason was spreading the love of Jesus. So let's talk about that. I almost flipped you guys off, I'm sorry. This is great. Okay, so first reason, unity, has to do with the fact that ASU has so many Christian groups on campus. There's a whole bunch, too many to name. And some of them are kind of working together in some areas. Others are extremely isolated and stuff. But what Love ASU wanted to do was bring all of them together to do something together. And what they wanted to do was 24-hour prayer. 24-hour prayer is basically impossible if you try to do it by yourself or with your own group of people. So they were like, hey, let's get all the campuses, ministries to participate and work with this. So what they do is they have basically anybody from any ministry, or you don't even have to be in a ministry, you can just be whoever you want to be, anybody. And you can sign up for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, one day, or an hour, any day of the week, Monday to Friday. And it could be any time. It could be like right now, or it could be 3 in the morning. Somewhere in between that 24/5 period. And basically the reason it works out is because they just have one single agenda, and it's just Jesus. So all these different ministries can just come together and they can just spread that love. Which brings us to our next point, which is the love of Jesus. And this is why it's actually the prayer tent and not the whatever tent. The prayer aspect is that you can go to this tent 24 hours, whenever. You could have someone pray for you, or talk to you, or even just you just sit there or whatever. They're just there for you. And that's basically the cool thing about it is that you know that no matter what hour of the day it is, there's someone there that can just be hey, you want to pray? Yeah. I'm going to show you guys a video that talks about it. Someone calls people.
campuses. What began in our nation as the primary training centers for missionaries and pastors has become a place where many young people lose their faith. It's been said that if you change the universities, you change the world. Think about it. What other place gathers all the nation's future leaders in one location for 4 years?
Arizona State University, the largest university in the nation, with over 53,000 students on the Tempe campus alone. And it's at Arizona State University where the Love ASU movement began. In 2005, 7 students began to meet weekly to pray for revival on ASU campus, and to ask how the body could unite to see the whole campus encounter Jesus. Within a year, this small prayer gathering of 7 grew to become a prayer movement of over 400 students, praying for 53 days of non-stop prayer. Every semester since that time, we have continued to host 20 to 40 days of 24-hour prayer on ASU campus. We believe that the single greatest thing we could ever do is the very thing our souls were created for: to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, and all of our strength, know Him and to love Him. He is our greatest treasure and our greatest reward.
Love ASU has also been instrumental in uniting various campus ministries and churches in prayer. We were started by 22 student leaders from 8 different campus ministries. Though each unique in our own approach, we all shared a belief that if God's people, who were called by His name, would humble themselves, pray, and seek His face and turn from their wicked ways, then He would hear from heaven and heal their land, our land.
Okay, so we've established that it's 24-hour prayer. So let's talk about where that idea came from. It's actually a really ancient idea. It comes from a verse in the Bible that deals with the year 1000 BC. There's a king named David, and he had this tent to hold the Ark of the Covenant. Have you ever seen Indiana Jones? That thingy. And he hired 4,000 musicians and 280 prophetic singers to do shifts or whatever. And basically so that at every single hour of the day, there'd be people in there praising God and worshiping. And if you fast forward 1,000 years and a half from that point, you would come to a guy named Alexander, who was some weird guy that lived in the desert. And yeah, he was a weird guy who lived in the desert, that's what he was. And he ran into a bunch of thieves one day, and he ended up converting them, and he made them all into monks. And he eventually got a whole bunch of monks, and they went to Constantinople, the old capital of the Roman Empire, and they made a 24-hour prayer house or whatever. And then they made other things too, and then 150 years after that, you go to this place called Bangor in Ireland, and they have their own prayer house, and then the monks there go on missions to all around Europe, and they make their own houses or whatever, and it's basically repeats on and on and on until modern day, where in Korea they have this, in 1973, this guy from Yodo Full Gospel Church is the name of the church. It's the biggest church in the world. He made a mountain. Well, he didn't make a mountain, it was already there. But he put I don't know, he did something with it. He put cells in it or rooms and stuff, and people would go there and they would pray for 24 hours a day, and it really quickly had 1 million visitors a year. And so, and then 30 years after that, in 1999, in Kansas City, which is surprisingly in Missouri, these yeah, come on, this makes sense. Anyway, so these guys call themselves IHOP, and that's not about pancakes, it's about praying. They decided to do a prayer meeting that would never end, and to this day it still has not ended. And their movement inspired a whole bunch of other states and college campuses to do their own 24-hour prayers, and that's how we got to this. So let's talk about the next part of this topic, this question, where did it come from? We're going to talk about how did the prayer tent start. So originally, it was just they would go to Danford Chapel, but then one year, they just 2011, they weren't able to go to Danford Chapel, and they felt God wanted them to just use a tent. So all right, so they went around, they figured around ASU looking for a spot. They ran into this lady called Linda Hill. She's oh hey, you guys are looking for a place. I had a dream last night. I was at Tyler Street in Palm Walk, and I was praising God there. And I'm like, alright, that's cool. Like, whatever. So, like, one of the guys, like, texted, well, they weren't like, whatever, they're like, cool. So one of the guys texted his girlfriend. Well, he left her a voicemail. It's like, hey, where should we put this? Whatever, we're thinking of doing that. And later she sent them a text. They didn't tell her about the dream at all. She's like, Tyler Mall and Palm Walk. And they're like, whoa, it's like right next to the Piper Building. So she says, like, all right, let's do it. So they managed to make it work, even though like you can only have it for like 10 days. A bunch of other ministries came together and they're like, hey, we'll give you our spots. And then at the last minute, ASU was like, all right, fine. So they got to do it on October 17th, 2011, which was the first year of the prayer thing was there. And those are the 2 questions. I've just answered them. My only hope for you guys for this is that next time you walk by, you know what it is, you know why it's there, and you know where it came from. That's it. Thank you.